What if I told you that something happened this past week that is all but going to guarantee that if things remain the same going forward, that former President Donald Trump is once again going to be President Donald Trump? Well, I can pretty well tell you that's going to happen. A lot of you may have missed it, but I want to show it to you. Now, listen, please watch this video to the end. It's very important. But the bottom line is I'm trying to build a channel and I need your help, and I definitely appreciate it. So if you don't mind, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button harder than Hunter Biden will hit the crack pipe. I appreciate it. So let's get right into it. Here we go. This is an interview the president just gave this past week to one of these liberal reporters on Meet the Press, and I'm going to comment as we go along. So let's start it up right now.
Just this week, women in Idaho and Tennessee, I don't know if you saw this, filed suit against their state saying their lives were put at risk after they were denied abortion services because their state's restrictive laws put in place after Roe was overturned. So my question for you, Mr. President, is how is it acceptable in America that women's lives are at risk, doctors are being forced to turn away patients in need, or risk breaking the law?
Ready? A little bit of a long answer. I hope you have time.
I hope you have time. I'm here for as long as you have.
Roe v. Wade. For 52 years, people, including Democrats, wanted it to go back to states so that states could make the right. Roe v. Wade, I did something that nobody thought was possible, and Roe v. Wade was terminated, was put back to the states. Now, people, pro-lifers, have the right to negotiate for the first time. They had no rights at all. Because the radical people on this are really the people, the Democrats, that say after 5 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, 9 months, and even after birth, you're allowed to terminate the baby.
Democrats aren't saying that. I just have to, Democrats are not saying that.
Of course
That's
they do.
not true.
You have a Virginia governor, previous governor, who said.
Now, listen, I want to say near the beginning here that I realize and appreciate the fact that abortion is an extremely touchy subject. It's been that way for what, 52 years now. It gets people's emotions very high. People tend to have very strong opinions one way or the other, understandably so. The purpose of this video is not necessarily to talk about abortion itself, although I would like to hear your comments. Just put them below and we can discuss them going forward. At any rate, it is very important that you listen to this short clip.
After the baby is born, you will make a determination, and if you want, you will kill that baby. The baby is now born.
Democrats writ large are not talking about that. Only 1% of late-term abortions happen, always in the state of
They are the.
What she doesn't tell you is that 1% is still a lot of babies. That's a lot of abortions. 1% of the total sounds like a small number, but that is still thousands, if not tens of thousands of unborn children. Generally speaking, you have the fringe groups. You have on the left-hand side, you have people that think you should be able to have abortion all the way up to the moment of birth, if not so many days afterwards. And then on the other side, you have conservative people that are extremely conservative, and I would argue radical, and that is they believe that if an 11-year-old was to become impregnated, she was raped, whatever was going on, that she should have to carry that baby to full term. And I think most people are in the middle, and that just offends most people. There's got to be some way to work it out. And of course, the president is going to go into that. We're going to continue.
Radical people, because nobody wants to see abortion after 5 months and 6 months and 7 months. And now it gave people that believe in pro-life, look, just so you understand, it's pretty much 50-50. It's a 50-50 issue. Amazing. If you look at the charts, it's been 49, 51. It's been like that for many years. Goes both ways. 51, both ways. Ready? I was able to do something which gave at least pro-life people a voice. Now it's going to work out. Now the number of months will be determined. And you're going to have something where everybody comes together.
Does it bother you, though, that women say their lives are being put at risk? Do you feel you bear any responsibility? Because as you say, you are responsible.
What's going to happen, this is an issue that's been going on for a long time, and it's a very polarizing issue.
Notice how masterful he is when it comes to answering questions. So this reporter is obviously trying to trap him, trying to catch him any way she possibly can. Anything he says, obviously, is going to be front page news, especially if he messes up. So she's trying to twist his words. She's trying to put words in his mouth. Frankly, she won't let him actually answer a question fully without interrupting and trying to change the subject. So let's see how he handles this.
Because of what's been done and because of the fact we brought it back to the states, we're going to have people come together on this issue. They're going to determine the time because nobody wants to see 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months. Nobody wants to see abortions when you have a baby in the womb. I said with Hillary Clinton when we had the debate, I made a statement, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month. You're allowed to do that, and you shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Again, no one
and
is
again,
arguing
listen,
for that. That's
look,
not a part of anyone's.
That's not true. There are people arguing for that. She's not being honest. She's lying.
Democrats are able to kill the baby after birth.
Let me talk to you.
Nobody wants that.
That Democrats don't want that.
So
either.
we're
But
going to
let's-
come together.
I want to know what you're going to do if you're.
We are going to
Did
come
you
together.
sign federal legislation that would ban abortion at 15 weeks?
This is key. This is absolute key, what she's asking him right now.
No, let me just tell you what I do. I'm going to come together with all groups, and we're going to have something that's acceptable. Right now, to my way of thinking, the Democrats are the radicals, because after 4 and 5 and 6 months, but you have to say this, after birth. You have New York State and other places that pass legislation where you're allowed to kill the baby after birth.
Mr. President, I want to give voters who are going to be weighing in.
Can you imagine that? There are people out there in our country, politicians in our country, that are actually advocating, proposing that you can abort a child, a living child, after birth. It's unconscionable.
This election.
Yeah.
A very clear sense.
I
Where
think
you stand on this.
they're all going to like me. I think both sides are going to like me.
Let me, but let
What's
Mr.
going to
President,
have to
Mr.
happen
President,
is you're
let me
going to
just
have to
ask this question,
listen.
please.
You're asking me a question. What's going to happen is you're going to come up with a number of weeks or months. You're going to come up with a number that's going to make people happy, because 92% of the Democrats don't want to see abortion after a certain period of time.
If a federal ban landed on your desk, if you were reelected, would you sign it at 15?
Are you talking about a complete ban?
A ban at 15 weeks?
Well, people are starting to think of 15 weeks. That seems to be a number that people are talking about right now.
Would you sign that?
I would sit down with both sides and I'd negotiate something, and we'll end up with peace on that issue for the first time in 52 years. I'm not going to say I would or I wouldn't. I mean, DeSantis is willing to sign a 5-week and 6-week ban.
Would you support that? You think that
I think what he did is a terrible thing and a terrible mistake. But we'll come.
What a smart move. I hope you caught that. He was talking about Governor DeSantis just signed a bill that banned all abortions, approximately 4, 5, 6 weeks, whatever it was. And he said that was a bad thing. Very important.
With a number. But at the same time, Democrats won't be able to go out in 6 months, 7 months, 8 months and allow an abortion. And Kristen, you have to look at this because you said no. You have some states that are allowed to kill the child after birth, and you can't allow that.
But Mr. President, again, no one is calling for a child to be killed after birth. No one's calling for that.
But you
to
have
be allowed.
legislation.
But let me just ask
Kristen, you have legislation in certain states where it's allowed.
Mr.
The
President.
governor of Virginia, previous governor,
Exactly.
who was a
Previous
whack job.
governor.
I call him the Michael Jackson governor.
No one's talking
That
about that as part of
governor-
their platform. I want to know
Excuse
what
me, that governor said you can kill the baby after birth.
Mr. President, this is about what you would do if you were reelected. As you know, you upset
We
some
will agree to a number of weeks, which will be where both sides will be happy. We have to bring the country together on this issue.
Mr. President, when you talk about negotiating, I think a lot of people.
Look how angry she looks. Look at her chin. She's got her chin kind of stuck forward. Her lips kind of got that anger look. Her body language is really clear. This is what we're up against nowadays in America. I'm going to speak out about this. I'm no longer just going to sit quietly by and just let this type of nonsense go on without saying, hey, this is ridiculous. But let's continue.
Think to themselves, this is an issue that they care about
I care
deeply
about it
in
too.
their hearts.
Oh, I
And
care
they
about it
know
too.
where they stand, and they want to know where you stand. As you know, some anti-abortion groups are really looking for some clarity from you. So let me just ask you to put a fine point on this. Should the federal government impose any abortion restrictions or should it be completely left up to the states?
I don't think you should be allowed to have abortions well into a pregnancy.
But what about the question
We're
I
going
just
to
asked
agree.
you?
We're going to agree to a number of weeks or months or however you want to define it. And both sides are going to come together, and both sides, and this is a big statement, both sides will come together, and for the first time in 52 years, you'll have an issue that we can put behind us.
At the federal level?
It could be state or it could be federal. I don't frankly care.
So you're not committed to a ban at the
I
federal
will say
level?
this, everybody, including the great legal scholars, love the idea of Roe v. Wade terminated so it be brought back to the states.
Sounds like that's what you think too, that
Well,
it should remain a state
I would
issue.
say this, from a pure standpoint, from a legal standpoint, I think it's probably better, but I can live with it either way. It's much more important. The number of weeks is much more important. But something will happen with the number of weeks, the amount of time, after which you can't do it. And you know what? The most powerful people that are anti-abortion are okay with that now. And you know what? They weren't okay with that even a year ago.
Your former Vice President, Mike Pence, believes that a fetus should have constitutional rights. Do you believe that, Mr.
Well,
President?
Mike Pence said something about 15 weeks, too, which was a big change for Mike Pence because Mike Pence had no exceptions. I have exceptions, by the way.
He's very, very smart. You can tell he's polished. He is calm, even though these questions are coming at him faster than he can even get a response out. He's staying composed. He's staying calm. He's very intelligent. He's articulate. He's got charisma. And of course, this liberal reporter is not too happy about it. The president is looking good.
I think people should have exceptions. I think if it's rape or incest or the life of the mother, I think you have to have exceptions.
Does a fetus have constitutional rights,
And a lot of people, when they don't have exceptions. Now, I will tell you that I think most people, most Republicans are willing. You go life of the mother, rape, incest. I think most of them are there.
But should a
That's a
fetus
big
have
statement.
constitutional rights, Mr. President?
Well, I don't know what he's saying because before he wanted, you couldn't have abortion.
But what are you saying?
Now all of
What
a
are
sudden,
you saying?
excuse me. Now all of a sudden he's saying 15 weeks. I said, wow, where did that come from? That's a radical change. Look, something is going to happen that's going to be good for everybody. And that's what I'm almost like a mediator in this case. They wanted Roe v. Wade terminated because it was inappropriate. We got it done. Something's going to happen. It's going to be a number of weeks. Something's going to happen where both sides are going to be able to come together. And then we'll be able to go into other things like the economy, our military.
Are you saying a federal ban with exceptions? Is that what you're saying?
What I say is very simple because you can't put words in my mouth like that.
I
because
just
you've been
want to
hearing me talk
understand.
about
Love
this
it,
issue.
love it.
I think talk about it very productively. It could be a state ban. It could be a federal ban. But Democrats want that too. Democrats don't want to see abortion in the 7th month. Okay, I speak to a lot of Democrats. They want a number. There is a number, and there's a number that's going to be agreed to. And Republicans should go out and say the following, because I think the Republicans speak very inarticulately about this subject. I watched some of them without the exceptions, et cetera, et cetera. I said, other than certain parts of the country, you're not going to win on this issue, but you will win on this issue when you come up with the right number of weeks, because Democrats don't want to be radical on the issue. Most of them, some do. They don't want to be radical on the issue. They don't want to kill a baby in the 7th month or the 9th month or after birth. And they're allowed to do that, and you can't do that.
I have a very robust foreign policy section to get to.
Okay.
I do want to give you an opportunity to talk about some of your legal challenges.
Okay.
If we could do.
Perfect. All right. What'd you think about that? That was the president on Meet the Press this past Sunday. I'm curious as to what you think. Put them in the comment section below, and I'll make a video later, and we'll talk about comments on comments. If you like this type of video, I definitely want to hear from you because I would like to make more focused on President Trump going forward. At any rate, I thought he looked good. What say you? I think he was poised. I think he was. I just think he was better than I've ever seen him. Now, why am I making a big deal about this as a game changer? The phrase I think I used is that the president is going to win as a result of this. And I believe it. And here's why. So here's my thought process on this matter. First of all, I'm going to remind you of the last election back in 2022. The Republicans got, well, they won the House, but let's be straight about it. They should have done a lot better. They should have won the Senate, and they should have had an overwhelming majority in the House, and that simply did not happen. According to the last figures I looked up, the Republicans technically had more votes in the election of 2022, but only about 3 million more votes. It was just over 50% favoring the Republicans. Now, why is that? With all of the junk, all of the mess ups the Biden administration is doing, open borders, they've shut down our gas and oil industry, inflation is running rampant, people are hurting, people are suffering. Why would the Democrats basically do so well in a midterm election, especially when midterms normally end up in a beating for the party that controls the White House? Well, I got the reason for you, and the reason is what we just talked about on this video, and that is abortion. What's surprising about this, and frankly it was surprising to me, is generally Americans are not motivated by single voter issues. So in other words, if there's one thing that's a subject and it's in the public eye, it's in the American eye, and people are upset, people are aggravated, or people are talking a lot about it, they generally, historically speaking, do not show up at the polls and vote based on one issue. Abortion, understandably so, is different and has proven to be different. And I have not personally heard anybody talk about this the way that I'm talking about it. What is going on is that in 2022, it was a bad defeat for the Republicans in my mind. And I was afraid, deathly afraid, that the Republicans were basically going to stand by their morals, no abortion, no exceptions. You must draw that hard line. It's just ridiculous. That is too conservative, and it is not supported by the polls. It's not supported by what Americans want. There are more women in our country than men. So you don't want to get on a subject that is going to aggravate the women. Because let's face it, if all the women vote the same way, they will control everything. It's just that simple. So this is an issue that is on the minds of a lot of Americans, if not all Americans. And I rest my case on what just happened in 2022. I am so pleased to see the president. I'm going to call him Donald Trump 2.0. He's focused. He's refined. He's much more calmer. He wasn't yelling at this reporter. I love the way he goes, excuse me. I mean, that's just really a good way to take back control of the conversation. I want to run a couple statistics by you real quick, just so you know where I'm coming from. I'm just not talking out of both sides of my mouth here. 34%, according to a recent Gallup poll dated May 2023, 34% they want, and this is of registered voters, they want abortion legal under any circumstance. Basically, if you want an abortion at any time, you can get an abortion. 51%, they want abortion under certain circumstances. 13% want abortion completely illegal under all circumstances. So basically, you have 13% of the country that is on the right conservative side, and they are what you would call the fringe. You also have a large chunk, which is somewhat surprising to me, but 34% of registered voters, they want abortion for any reason whatsoever. Boom. Well, 51%, let's just say they're in the middle. If you add the middle plus the 34% that want abortion for any reason upon demand, that's 85% of the electorate. Now, irregardless of what your views are on abortion, you have to understand the following. If Republicans do not start acting like Donald Trump just handled himself in this specific interview, the Republicans are going to lose, despite the economy, despite all the junk that's going on. People, understandably so in my opinion, are very, very motivated by this abortion issue. And when you have an issue where basically 85% and more want some kind of legalized abortion across the land, you better take notice. You better pay attention. Otherwise, you are going to lose. It's just that simple. I appreciate the fact that abortion is a sensitive subject. It's obviously highly emotionally charged. I don't really want to get into my personal feelings of it other than to say that I am really apprehensive about the government having decisions in our personal lives no matter what. I also don't want to see abortion on the day of birth. It just is sick. That does not strike me as something we should allow in this country. But I really, really, really don't trust the government at all. We have to be accountable to ourselves. We have to be accountable to our God. We have to be accountable for the decisions we make. And we do not need a nanny state telling us everything, controlling us in every way, providing for us from the time we're born to the time we pass away. And I think the statistics bear out what I just said. I mean, that is a whopping statistic when you look at 85% of the population wants some kind of legal abortion. I think most people, from published reports that I have read, generally would like to see Roe versus Wade, which was the law of the land for the past 50 years until it was overturned last year. They want essentially Roe versus Wade codified into American law. I believe the Roe versus Wade decision was somewhere right around 15 or 16 weeks. You can go in and have an abortion if that's what you chose to do. So what are your thoughts about it? What are you thinking? What's going through your mind? Please leave them in the comments below. I'd love to read them. I'd love to talk about it. I am so glad to see President Trump get ahead of this issue. He was not tricked by her questions. You can bet if he said something like, I will pass a federal abortion ban, period, it would be played on the news 24/7, and I can assure you he would lose the next election. The president is not stupid. He's obviously very smart, and I am so happy to see him coached, refined. He's obviously rehearsed. He's practiced. He's on fire, if you will. And I really hope he gets back in office and he can turn this wokeness, this craziness that's going in our country around. It's just my opinion. If you have a different opinion, you're welcome to put it in the comments below. Feel free to drop me a line anytime. I can always be reached at ReachJRDukes@gmail.com. It's been my pleasure talking with you today. Stay positive. Have that free mind. I am coming to you today from beautiful Zephyr Hills, Florida. Until next time, my friends, I am JR Dukes.